Merry Christmas to you. Gregory, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Thanks.
Okay. Merry Christmas to you, listeners. Merry Christmas to you, Gregory.
Merry
My name is
Christmas
B.
to
Yakikwelu. I'll be hosting the show and I'll be asking questions whilst Gregory will be answering the questions tonight. So, how are you?
It's fine, although it's getting cold in this northern hemisphere.
Please tell us where you're joining from.
I'm in
Oh, okay. Is that
Brussels.
so? Okay. And the weather? How
Yes.
is the weather like?
Well, it's getting dark now. It's been windy, noisy, but it's okay.
Okay. I am B, and my location where I'm currently in South Africa, but I am in Mpumalanga, which is a region in South Africa. And the weather here is um, partly cloudy, a little drizzly, is having a little bit of drizzles from rain. It's been doing that for the past day or two. So it's slightly wet. But altogether, the weather is, I would say, between um, 23 to 26 degrees Celsius, basically. So, yes. So, dear listeners, as I mentioned, this is the spiritual discussion program on Blessed Radio. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdul Shane. We have a new topic for discussion every week. And tonight's topic of discussion is the birth of the Son of God. You can join in the show on the Blessed chat. We will not be receiving calls tonight, but you can only contact us on the chat box on the website where we are broadcasting on Blessed Radio 1. That is Blessed Radio, the number 1. Go to the homepage, just scroll down to the box called Blessed Chat and send any questions or comments. As I mentioned, you can listen to us on blessedradio1.com. That is the number 1. Also, we are streaming on YouTube. Go to the youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1 live stream. That is the number 1 again. Thirdly, you can listen on Zeno. That is Zeno FM / Zeno.fm / Bless Radio 1. That is the number 1 again. I would like to start with what is the Grail Message? What is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abrushing is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation at the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life, to and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover from the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with the matter of fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I would like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and the reader of the lectures should always work within themselves keenly, probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all happenings, the reader will come to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with seven seals. I want to give another quote for the author, from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, Gregory, the topic of tonight's discussion is the birth of the Son of God. And as you know, we normally go through a series of definitions to try to elaborate and understand what the topic of discussion is all about. It gives our listeners a clearer view of what the topic of discussion is. So, Gregory, I have the definitions here. That is for birth. The explanation here says the act or process of being born. And the example here given is the emergency of a baby or young from the body of its mother. The emergence, of a baby or young from the body of its mother. Example, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl. What would you say about this?
Well, thanks for this particular question. The definition of birth, as you related, is a good pointer to what we need to discuss this evening, because birth relates the concepts which we're trying to build up so that we have a comprehensive picture. So your definition is a pointer, it's helpful, but it's still not sufficient.
Okay. All right. Then let me go on to the next one, or the origin of something. That is another explanation for birth. And it says the start or coming into existence of something. Example, the birth of a new era. Would this also suffice for the meaning?
Yes, these are all descriptions from different angles. The coming into existence in a particular area. Say in the world of matter, what was not there before, now the framework is there and now it manifests. So yes, it is very helpful in painting the concepts in the appropriate foundations.
Okay, thank you very much for that explanation. The other one meaning that I'm looking at here is the third one says lineage or origin. For instance, we have a person's family background or ancestry. Example, he was born of noble birth.
Which means basically whoever the person is came into these walls of flesh and blood, and he's along that line, he's of noble birth. Again, these are qualification of what birth is, which is also helpful.
Okay, I think we are getting a much clearer view now. The next one here, I think I'll have to go through a couple here on the descriptions, just so that we can get a much clearer understanding of what we're trying to discuss tonight. The act of bringing forth young, and then in bracket is in animals, bringing forth a young. The process by which an animal gives birth. Example, the cat gave birth to 3 kittens. Is an act of bringing forth the young.
Well, what you just read out, it said bringing up. It means before you bring up, it is hoped that that which you wish to bring up is already there. So,
yes. Sorry, I said bringing forth, bringing forth. Bringing, okay, yeah, makes the same meaning. Yes, bringing.
Like these things are tightly knitted, and it is quite rightly painting a picture, pointing to what birth is. So these are also very helpful.
Okay, I see where you're going here now. So then, if you look at the final definition here for the birth, it says, give birth to, bring forth offspring. Yes, I think this is more or less tied to the previous definition. The example here they give, they say it's a modern usage, very used, but it's modern usage. Example is the mare bettered her fowl. So obviously that's another way of, it's more like a verb as opposed to a noun.
Yeah, again, these are pointers, which are also helpful.
Helpful, okay. And then now we want to go into the next meaning of the word, the Son of God. Now, the term the Son of God is often seen in theological and religious terms rather than a standard, would I say, dictionary term, but it can still be defined as follows. In Christianity, Jesus Christ, the title given to Jesus, affirming his divine nature and his unique relationship with God the Father as part of the Holy Trinity. And the example they give here is Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God, sent to redeem humanity. What are your views about this?
Actually, one only needs to use the words of Christ himself, which says, by their works, we shall know them. Basically, by their works, they reveal whom they are. Therefore, it is important to examine thoroughly the works of...
Would you want to go into further...
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I was saying, hello, can you hear me? I can hear you.
Yeah, I had not finished. I was painting the picture.
So, okay, go ahead.
Like I said, by his works, he reveals himself. Therefore, his works should be examined and weighed intuitively. Only then are we able to validate or verify whom he is personally.
That is quite a very in-depth um, explanation there. By his works you shall know them. And that is quite a way of describing the Son of God. Um, in another way, I would like to look at another broader religious context where it says a person regarded as having a divine or special relationship with God, often used in a metaphorical or symbolic sense in various religious traditions. Example, some ancient texts describe kings or prophets as sons of God.
Well, in that particular case, one must examine the one must examine inconsistency. Again, one will find that because there had not been clarity about this, many words are used which really convey no precise meaning. The Son only means a part of, not the way we view things here on earth. When that expression, son, is mentioned in the divine sense, it means a part of. That is why you find that there is the Trinity which is mentioned. The Son, or the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. The Son is more of the right hand. The Holy Spirit is more of the left. And then the head is the Father. It is these three concepts that is being referred to as the Trinity. Without the three being linked together, many are unable to grasp what is being discussed. Therefore, that which is referred to as a part of the Trinity, that may be referred to as the Son. For the Father himself is light. The substances to create forms so that one can have a firm concept. That substantiality, which many also, if they reflect deeply, is love, because that is what binds. And then on the left-hand side, there is the Holy Spirit, who himself is the will of the Almighty. So that Trinity explained means the Father who is life. The sons, and there are two of them, one of them, the personification of divine love, Christ. And on the left-hand side, the personification of divine will. That personification of divine will is what many still do not have clarity about.
Thank you very much for this explanation. I think as we dive a little further into this topic, we'll be able to see more on what it means about the Trinity and what the sonships of God truly means. And this leads me to the question that I'm going to ask now. First of all, who is the Son of God?
This is a question which keeps coming up. The Son of the Almighty is an integral part of the Almighty, an integral part in the manifestation. And that's why one is saying part. For the operations in nature, in creation, there is the need for forms to become perceptible. He himself, who is the origin or who is the personification of divine love, he is the inborn Son of the Almighty. Whereas there is another Son who himself is the personification of the divine will. He also is a part of the Almighty. Only through the will and the love can human spirits be able to perceive the happenings in creation. Of the Father himself, the power, the source of all power, the human personality is unable to grasp.
Thank you very much for this explanation. I think it brings us a lot closer to um, what what the topic of discussion is today. Um, a little further down, I would also like to find out what is the significance then of Jesus's birth, or Jesus being the Son of God. What is the significance of his birth?
Again, thanks for this particular question. As can be seen, or as can be perceived, only through one's activities can one perceive the significance. He himself lived by examples of how things should be. If the human spirits were working, if their activities were as they should be, then there would have been no need for him to come. But since things were on the downward path, he had to come to show men the path which they needed to take in order for them to become self-conscious. For that is the goal of the human personalities who have journeyed away from their origin, first as unconscious, unaware gems, spirit gems, who needed to come to the area where motion was not too fast, such that gradually in their experiences, they will become conscious of the environment. That means they will awaken. And subsequently, in exercising their free will, hopefully, if their free will is in accordance with the will of the Almighty that permitted them to incarnate an experience, then they will become self-conscious. They will become self-conscious in accordance to this will and will be able to return back to their origin as self-conscious human spirits. When they left, they had no form as such, but were seed grains. Were they to return as self-conscious, then they would have the human form and will live forever. Now, it's understandable when you have the scenario where the human spirit is erring. That means its activities are not in accordance with the will of the Almighty, therefore it sinks. But with the emergence of Christ, who showed the path through his personal example, many were able to follow, or some were able to follow, and were able to sever themselves from the wrong concepts, from the wrong paths, which prevailed at that time and sadly still prevail. And in following the paths which he showed, some are able to find their way back home as self-conscious personalities. Is the significance.
Thank you very much for such a profound explanation. I think our listeners will definitely benefit from this, and would like to let our listeners Bless Radio, the Spirit program on Tuesdays evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. the UK time. I'm hosting the show together with Gregory, and he will be answering the questions I posed to him about the aim of the show is to introduce you to the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you want to know more information on the Grail Message or want a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, then go to this website, www.grailmessage.com. I repeat, it's www.grail, that is Grail, message, that is MESSAGE.com. The topic of the discussion tonight is the birth of the Son of God. You can join in the show with questions and comments on the Blessed Chat on the website. You can go to the chat box on the website where we are broadcasting on blessradio1.com. That is blessradio1.com. Just scroll down to the box called Bless Chat and send any questions or comments. As I mentioned, you can listen to us on www.blessradio1.com. That is the number one. We are also live streaming on YouTube. Go to the youtube.com, type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that is one word, the number one, again. The next day, you can listen to the recording of the show. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, that is one word, and the number one. That's Bless Radio 1, the number one. The Grail Message and the topic, which is today, is the birth of the Son of God. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That is zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. That is the number one again. You can join us on the show with your questions and comments only on the Bless Chat Radio today. We will not be taking comments on other channels of communication, for example, WhatsApp. We are only receiving messages on the Bless Chat for tonight. So, Gregory, I would like to move on to the next section here. Another question that comes to mind, which is, what is the proper definition of sonship of God? In other words, who can embody this sonship?
Again, only those who are intrinsically endowed with the features of divinity unsubstantiate, only those can even talk about being the sons of the Almighty. For one cannot say for those who are so far away from the origin of power itself, those of spirituality. Spirituality remains a consistency. Before spirituality, there was or there is divinity. And only through divinity did creation came into existence. So one cannot say, oh, I am divine, because creation itself is a product. The consistency of creation is different from the consistency of divinity. So it's a matter of a difference in species. Above even divine substantiality is divine unsubstantiality. One cannot even imagine what divine unsubstantiality is, because there is no form for it. But there is the designation. So only those who carry deep within divinity or substantiate, only those may be considered as a path of the Almighty, whereas others are not, but are dependent on the power that streams out from the source. That is life itself.
Thank you very much for this explanation because I like to sometimes cross check some of these definitions and to see what um, other texts will say about this particular concept. And um, I think your explanation does clear up and show a much in-depth explanation and goes in line with what I am about to read now. Because here it says, and this is I'm reading now from a verse in the Bible. This was in Job 1:6, which says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. The sons of God here are angels." So this is more or less a way to see that um, this sons of God speaks about um, the character of species that have um, the attribute of divinity within them. Again, I'd like to look at another verse here, which is Job 2:1. Job 2, verse 1. Here it says, "Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord." And again, the sons of God here, as we can see in this verse, also referring to the angels. This more or less goes in line with your explanation.
Yeah, that which you yourself just mentioned in Job is referring, albeit, to activities most likely in the divine realm or within divinity. But even activities there, one cannot call those who walk there, who unconditionally swing within the rays of the will of the Almighty and of the love of the Almighty. One cannot even call those who walk in the divine realm, one can call them the sons of the Almighty. Because it is true they have divinity, but they are of divinity substantiate. Those we refer to as the sons of the Almighty are of divinity unsubstantiate. That is a big, it's a big difference. That means their innate origin is higher above divinity. Only those, and there are just two of them, the love of the Almighty and the will of the Almighty. However, to make themselves comprehensible, they need to have a cloak. They need to have substantiality through which others may recognize them, in divinity, in the divine species. Therefore, a form, is presented. But that form is only a cloak. And there are just two of them.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this explanation. And this actually leads me to now when we talk about the um, substantiate beings or um, the the substantiate divinity divine beings. Um, I, I'd like to go a little further to just go back to the story of the birth of Jesus Christ, because that is the focus of today's discussion. And I look at a book. I'm looking at a reference from Luke. That is Luke 2, from verses I think 1 to 20, which covers the birth of Jesus Christ. But I would like to go to the part where the angel of the Lord, this is in verse 9, the angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all people. Today, in the town of David, and a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in the cloths and lying in the manger." Suddenly, a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those to whom his favor rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." I am going to rest there. The question that I have here is, this is also to do with this specific verse where it talks about angels appearing. Well, it paints the picture of angels appearing, going to be appearing with the expectant child that is coming through the Virgin Mary. According to the biblical references, there is a concept of the Immaculate Conception of Jesus, where the angel appears. This is Angel Gabriel giving Mary the story of the birth of Jesus, that she will be given birth to a son and his name must be called Jesus. This story is often referred to as the Nativity story, which encapsulates everything that happened from the point where Jesus, where the angel passed on the message to Joseph and Mary, and also when the actual conception took place. Could you take us a little further to explain to us what this Immaculate Conception means? The Immaculate Conception of Jesus.
Thanks for this particular question. One will find in the case of the scenario in which Jesus was born, the light has already made provision, and that angel was sent down to allay the fears of those who will play a significant part, which will permit of the birth, the physical birth of the Son of the Almighty. With such, It means a preparation then takes place. However, the preparation does not mean that the laws of birth would be violated. What then happened was basically as natural as ever. Once those who are involved intrinsically have been, I mean, their fears have been allayed, then we have the scenario in which the case of Mary, that was the first time she was becoming pregnant. Therefore, all the tools that are essential for her to carry the baby are virginal. They have not been brought into use before. Therefore, it was a pure birth. In the case that there was no lust attached to it, the angels saw to that they were prepared for the arrival of the Son of the Almighty. I see you are back.
Yes, sorry. I must have had some intermittent interruptions there with the
Yes, I saw it.
connection. But I am back now. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. I'm not sure what you were explaining. I'm not sure if I was the one that went offline, but you were explaining this.
I was explaining
Yes.
you had asked the question about the virgin birth of Christ. And I was trying to paint a picture and saying, like you mentioned, the angel came to allay any worries in the preparation for the birth of Christ. That already gives the indication that there was no sinful lust attached to it. So it must have been very necessary. In that case, Mary had to enter into the task which was assigned to her. And because that was the first time she was going to have a baby, all the tools which are necessary to have a baby came into activity the first time. That means they were virginal. They have not been used before. As Jesus himself will be the first child of Mary. Maybe that's why it's being referred to as the Virgin Mary. So it is quite different. In the case where if Mary had had children before, that would have been different. But that was not the case. So his birth, the conception itself, was pure because it was decreed from on high, from the source, from him who gave rise, or whose power gave rise to creation.
Thank you very much for this explanation. Question is, what is the significance of the virgin birth, and does it relate to the divine nature, and how does it relate to the divine nature of Jesus Christ?
Only Jesus himself at that time, through his very being, the purity of his intuitions, only those could keep that which is dark away. For at that time, there had been all types of distortions, lack of clarity. And it's from up in divinity that it was seen that the only way to be of help to the strained human spirit was the incarnation of that which is so pure. And through his examples, he will clear the path for those who wish to follow him. Most of the examples which he gave were quite direct. When people asked him, and who is my neighbor? He gave an example. And towards the end of it, he said, you go and do likewise. So at that time, it requires the personality of one who was pure enough, whose radiation was so strong that the darkness had to move away. It shows the love which the Almighty had for humanity by sending his inborn Son to show the path which the human personalities need to follow if they are to avoid destruction. Only those who follow his example, only those who swing unconditionally in the will of the Almighty, only those who follow precisely the path which he himself has marked out for them in, for example, the Lord's Prayer, only those people will find their way out of the maze of human cleverness and of confusion. Else, many will be tied up. They won't be able to make progress, which will lead them upwards, back home as self-conscious human spirits. So it was only because he has come and showed the example how it should be. Only then were human personalities bold enough, courageous enough to take the right step along that direction.
Thank you very much. I'd like to also find out what is the clear distinction between a virgin birth and also the one relayed also in the Bible about the cousin of Mary, Elizabeth, the mother, Mary, the mother of Jesus. Elizabeth happened to be the mother of John the Baptist. But the story goes that Elizabeth was barren and past childbearing age when she conceived the son, John, through the power of the Holy Spirit. This is how it's been portrayed or relayed in the ancient text, example, the Bible. Um, so, what is the clear distinction here between a virgin birth and that of the birth of John the Baptist?
First, one must understand that human knowledge about activities in creation are so highly narrow. Even nowadays, many will say, oh, this particular lady, particular woman is past childbearing. And along the line, even at age 60, you find that that particular woman now has a son or a child, which means that the knowledge that many still hold about the activities in creation, in nature, is so highly limited. They cannot see much further because they have distorted concepts. Of course, the birth of Christ by Mary is a virgin birth. The birth of John the Baptist is also a virgin birth. One can already see that both of them, both John the Baptist and Jesus, you find that they are so closely knit that one has to prepare the way for the other. And the activities of John are, to a large extent, clearly related very well in biblical stories. One thing is very clear, that both of them, their births were such that that which is necessary to have a child the first time were only activated as such. So they may also be called, the case of John, a virgin birth. However, the tasks of John and the task of Jesus were different. One thing which is the commonality, one thing which was common is that John had to prepare the way, to prepare the people. Only then would Christ then take over from there. John himself, in the preparation of people, had to baptize Christ. And after the baptism, you now have, in the purity of Christ himself, power rushed towards him, and his tasks, his goal became very clear to him, such that he needed a short period thereafter to prepare himself. Preparation of himself is not only that which is spiritual, but also the physical body had to be adjusted to the power from on high, such that everything should be in equilibrium. Only thereafter will he attempt to approach men and show them the way through the activities. He himself was like any other person. He didn't come as a king and staying in a palace. It was a simple death, and he lived a very simple life.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for this explanation. You are listening to Bless Radio. This is the spiritual discussion program on Tuesday evenings from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. I'm hosting the show and asking the questions together with Gregory, who will be answering the questions that I pose to him. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you want more information on the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, then go to this website. That is www.grailmessage.com. I repeat, www.grail, that is GRAIL, message, MESSAGE.com. The topic for today's discussion is the birth of the Son of God. You can join us with questions and comments on the Bless Radio chat box, which we are broadcasting on the blessradio.com. That is blessradio1.com. Go to the homepage. Just scroll down to the box called Bless Chat and send any questions or comments. As I mentioned, you can listen to us on www.blessradio1.com. That is the number one. We are also live streaming on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, type in the search box, Bless Radio 1 live stream. That is the number one once again. The next day, you can listen to the recording of the show. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the Grail Message, and the topic, which is today, is the birth of the Son of God. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That is zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. That is the number one again. So once again, Gregory, I was wondering, as we were talking about the difference or the similarities between the virgin birth that Mary had, Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Elizabeth, which is the mother of John the Baptist, there seems to be a parallel here in this story. The parallel between the two stories is one thing that seems also unique, is that Angel Gabriel was sent over to pass on the message of the John the Baptist's birth. This message was passed on to Zechariah, which is a high priest at the time, and he had a disbelief that that would actually occur because his wife would be, that is Elizabeth, had been past the age-bearing age, a childbearing age, sorry. What is the significance of the angel being sent to deliver the message, first of John the Baptist, and also secondly of the Son of God? What is the activities of the Archangel Gabriel? Or should I put it this way, what is the activity, or why did God send Archangel Gabriel to deliver this sort of messages?
Whenever there are activities or tasks to be accomplished, tasks to be accomplished which have been given from on high by the light itself, then the accomplishment of these tasks must be holistic, will be comprehensive. It will not be done in parts which are uncoordinated. It is well known or was seen from the light that there will be a period of maturity for the Son of the Almighty to commence his tasks here on earth. And for him to do that, there will be the need for others to join in the preparation, to prepare the people, and also to initiate the Son of the Almighty in the case of baptism. So you find that the same angel that came to Mary also visited Elizabeth and informed both, hopefully, the husband and the wife. However, in the case of the husband of Elizabeth, the old perceptions still hold very strongly. Maybe it held very strongly because he would have been so excited and we go about talking, just like you have many people talk too much nowadays. In the preparation to ensure the fulfillment of certain tasks, sometimes it is best to remain silent and focus on what one needs to do to make sure these tasks are accomplished successfully. That could be one way of saying it. But he himself had a disbelief. That means he himself already, in his thoughts, has put a block within himself. In that case, it was he who put that block. So he could not speak. He had to observe. But deep within himself, there were activities going on. Only when the wife had delivered, only then could he open his mouth. There are many reasons why some of these things happen. For some, careless discussion may become an obstacle to that which needs to be achieved. Because you find that they have been wishing for a child, nothing happens. And then in their excitement on hearing such good news, there is disbelief. His own was disbelief. The case of the angels, who spoke to human personalities, theirs was fear. So you will find that in the case of Elizabeth and the husband, the pressure of the light, which had been brought to bear on the husband, must have been so strong. But at the same time, there is the resistance. And that being the case, through his activities, that means through his thoughts or his disbelief, he put a block on himself. Not that the angel needed to put a block on him. He, through his activities, put a block on himself. That was not the case with Joseph. In his simplicity, he accepted it.
That is quite an in-depth explanation there, and I must say that it actually speaks of our human um, tendencies. The story of Zechariah, father of John. Um, Obviously, we might have an event that is overwhelming, and we tend to I mean, if you have been given this connection, or would I say revelation from the light or from the higher planes, and you feel the urge to relate to others, basically, and that happens a lot in today's activities of mankind. We tend to um, a lot of people talk too much when they feel excited about something that they wish to just share it with everyone else at the same time. They don't hold it back. But I think the parallel is, or the parallel story with the Joseph was that he was able to contain this news, and him and Mary were able to modestly listen to the message of the angel and be able to follow their instructions as it were to unfold. Again, I'd like to ask another further question. Why was the Son of God born in such horrible circumstances, such as a manger, instead of a royal or prominent setting? One would think that naturally a person with such high or reverence, that we all should have such high reverence for, um, comes out in a manger, where there are donkeys and sheep and just animals and everything being so noble. Actually, not many people get to be birthed in such a humble way.
As is well known, consider, were Christ born in a palace, then the majority of people will say, oh, this is too high for us. He is not one of us. That is why the Lord Almighty permitted that he be born in a palace. The example had to be shown of simplicity, such that all are able to follow. Being born in the manger, being born like every other person, this was the most normal and natural thing that can happen. In that case, all people feel, have this sort of feeling that, yes, I myself can be saved. Otherwise, many would have been stressing. See, Lord sent his son, put him in a palace. You never heard that Christ was riding horses and chariots all over the place. No, he didn't. Just like every other person, he walked, which goes to show that he was as natural and as normal as he was supposed to be. This simplicity and humbleness, the humbleness of birth and the simplicity, these are intrinsic features of the light. And since Christ himself came from the light, he had to exhibit these features from the beginning to the end. Therefore, it is right that he was born in the simplest of places. Otherwise, what would you say for many who are shepherds? All they would say, oh, you see, born in the palace of Caesar. All right? And that cannot be true. It's not for us. But it was they themselves, in the way they lived their lives, who were spoken to. And in that case, one should not forget, when the angel approached them, he said, be not afraid. Anytime you have happenings from the light in which human personalities have their own distorted way of doing things, any appearance, any revelation from the light, any manifestation, the human personalities involved first have to be assured, because it is fear that they themselves have done something wrong. And that is why this is happening. But the assurance was given, be not afraid. For many who have a longing to examine, to weigh and examine the walk in the light of truth, they should find time to examine it in accordance with the laws of creation, examine it using their intuition, examine it in their thoughts, weigh and examine, and even in deeds. They can verify this. So you will find, in this case of his birth, even in the manger, everyone could identify with that without qualification. And that's easily won the hearts. Do not forget, it was the shepherds who were quite open. Open because they are the ones who lead the sheep to graze. Most of the distorted concepts of the people in the cities or in the towns, all the concepts, if not most of it, are highly distorted. But the shepherds, to some extent, are still natural within them. They are open to the happenings in nature. and could easily identify with that. Therefore, in all simplicity and in all humility, it was they who, to a large extent, were nearest to those who could easily open up and follow the revelations of that particular happening. They did not refuse to go. Once the angel had told them, they went straight to verify. That is quite remarkable. Nowadays, ask yourself, with all the hints given to the people, where they needed to weigh, where they needed to examine, did they do any verification?
That is very profound. Thank you very much for that explanation. Um, I would like to go a little further, but before I do, I would like to just remind our listeners that you are listening to Blessed Radio. This is a spiritual discussion program on Tuesdays evenings and from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. am the host of the show tonight, and I will be asking questions to Gregory, who will be answering my questions. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the work In the Light of Truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you want more information on the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, then go to this website, that is www.grailmessage.com. I repeat, www.grail, that is GRAIL, message, that is MESSAGE.com. The topic of tonight's discussion is the birth of the Son of God. You can join in the show with your questions and comments on the Blessed Chat Radio. Tonight, we will not be receiving messages on WhatsApp, just on the Blessed Chat Radio, where we are broadcasting on blessedradio1.com. Go to the homepage, just scroll down to the box called Blessed Chat and send any questions or comments. As I mentioned, you can listen to us on www.blessedradio1.com. That is the number one. We are also live streaming on YouTube. Go to the youtube.com, type in the search box, Blessed Radio 1 live stream. That is the number one again. The next day, you can listen to the recording of the show. Again, go to youtube.com and type in the search box, Bless Radio 1, the Grail Message, and the topic, which today is the birth of the Son of God. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. That is the number one once again. So, Gregory, I would like us to, I'm aware you have a few things to relay, messages to share with our listeners.
Yes, I do. I intend to read from the work In the Light of Truth, one of the lectures, which is titled The Star of Bethlehem. It take about another 5-10 minutes. And I will start from here, not from the beginning. Only the impossible demands blind, unreserved faith. For whatever is possible immediately stimulates independent thinking. Where there is truth, which is always characterized by naturalness and consistency, thinking and deep intuitive sensing automatically sets in. This only ceases where it no longer finds anything natural, thus where truth does not exist. And it is only through deep intuitive sensing that anything can become conviction, which alone brings values to the human spirit. So now, along with everything else, the cycle which begins with the Holy Night in Bethlehem is also closing. And the closing of this cycle must cast out all inaccuracies in the transmissions and in their stead bring the truth to victory. The darkness created by humanity is dispelled by the penetrating light. All legends, which in the course of time have been woven around the life of Jesus, must fall away so that it may at last emerge in purity, in accordance with divine laws, as indeed it could not have been otherwise in this creation. Hitherto, you have credulously and wantonly denied the perfection of the Creator, your God, with your self-established cause. You deliberately and consciously represent him in this cause as imperfect in his will. I've already spoken about this, and turn and twist as you will. Not a single subterfuge can acquit you of having been too indolent to think about it yourself. You do not honor God by blindly believing in things that are not in accordance with the primordial laws of creation. On the contrary, if you believe in the perfection of the Creator, then you must know that nothing can happen here in creation that does not also precisely conform to the logical sequence in the firmly established laws of God. Only therein can you truly honor him. He who thinks otherwise thus doubts the perfection of the Creator, is God. For where alterations or further improvements are possible, there is not and never have been perfection. Development is something different. This is provided for and intended in this creation. However, it must follow unconditionally as a logical sequence of the effects of already existing laws. But all this cannot produce such things as many believers take for granted, especially in the life of Christ. Wake up from your dreams at last and become inwardly true. Let it be said once more that according to the laws of in creation, it is impossible for bodies of earth men ever to be born without previous physical procreation, and equally impossible for a physical body to be raised into the ethereal realm after its earthly death, still less into the animistic or even to the spiritual realm. And since Jesus had to be born here on earth, this event was also subject to the gross material divine laws of a previous procreation. If it had happened with Christ as transmissions reports, God would have had to act against his own laws. But this he cannot do, since he is perfect from the very beginning, and thus also his will, which lies in the laws of creation. Whoever still dares to think otherwise doubts this perfection, and thus ultimately also doubts God. For God without perfection would not be God. There is no substitute. No human spirit can quibble about this simple certainty, even if the foundations of many formal opinions must now be shaken thereby. Here it is only either or, all or nothing. There can be no compromise because nothing incomplete or unfinished can exist in the Godhead, nor in anything concerned with God. Jesus was procreated physically, otherwise an earthly birth would not have been possible. At that time, only a few recognized the star as the fulfillment of the prophecies. Among them were Mary herself and also Joseph, who, deeply stirred, hid his face. 3 kings found their way to the stable and presented earthly gifts, but then they went their way, leaving without protection the child whose earthly path they should have smoothed with their wealth and power, so that no harm might befall him in the fulfillment of his mission. Although they received enlightenment, enabling them to find the child, they did not fully recognize their sublime call. Disquietude drove Mary away from Nazareth, and Joseph, seeing her silent suffering and longing, granted her wish solely to make her happy. He handed over the management of his carpenter's shop to his oldest employee, and with Mary and the child, journeyed to a distant country. In the course of their everyday life of work and cares, the memory of the radiant star slowly faded from their minds, especially as in his early years, Jesus displayed nothing extraordinary, but like all children, was quite natural. It was only on his deathbed, after returning to his native town, that Joseph, who had always been the best of fatherly friends to Jesus, saw in his passing, during his last moment on earth, the cross and the dove above Jesus, who stood alone at his bedside. Deeply stirring were his last words. So thou art he, after all. Jesus himself knew nothing of this until something urged him to go to John, of whom he had heard that he was proclaiming wise teachings and baptizing in the river Jordan. With this gross material act of baptism, the beginning of his mission was firmly anchored in the world of gross matter. The bandage fell. From this moment, Jesus himself was conscious that he was to carry the word of the Father among mankind on earth. His whole life as it really was will unfold itself before you, divested of all the fantasies invented by human brains. With the closing of the cycle of this event, it will be revealed to all during the judgment through the victory of the truth, which for a long time to come may no longer be obscured. Mary fought an inward battle with her doubts, which were strengthened through motherly anxiety for her son, right up to the grievous walk to Golgotha. Purely human and not supernatural. Only there did recognition of his mission, and with it, belief finally come to her. But now, at the return of the star, all errors shall henceforth be redeemed through the grace of God, and likewise all the faults of those who, without obstinacy or evil intent, rendered Christ's way more difficult at that time, and who now, at the closing of the cycle, come to recognition and try to make good their neglect or failures. Through their desire to make good, redemption arises for them with the radiant star. Liberated, they can give jubilant thanks to him who, in his wisdom and goodness, created the laws by which all creatures must judge and also redeem themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yuri. That is very insightful. With careful pondering, it's quite obvious that this is a momentous event, the birth of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. I would like to go to another. Do you have any other readings, or is this the only one?
Well, one can add some other reading, but I thought there should be questions first.
Questions first. Okay. I'm just going to quickly take a quick note to see if I can see if there are any questions from our listeners. Okay, so it seems like there hasn't been any questions so far, but I continue with questions. How does the timing and the location of the Jesus birth in Bethlehem, specifically during the Roman rule, fulfill the ancient prophecies?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, because it was shaky, I couldn't hear properly.
Oh, sorry about that. I think it's my um, network coverage. I must say, once again, how does the timing and location of Jesus' birth in Bethlehem during the Roman rule fulfill the ancient prophecies?
Well, thanks for these questions. Like has been mentioned, when it comes to activities which are willed from the light, you find it is comprehensive. There are many others who will have to cooperate to ensure that there is fulfillment of that particular prophecy. At that time, one will find that even the people of the Jews who were then in Israel or in Judea had become so weak and could not even rule themselves, but were only very prone to rebel, to squabble among themselves. With the presence of the Romans, they, to a large extent, were protected from the influx and destructive influence of others around them. So the army of Rome, to a large extent, protected them to ensure that they were still active. Activities not only in their bodies, but to some extent they could still reflect, and they were still expecting that there will be a happening in the form of a Messiah which will be sent to them to show them how they should live. But the problem was, how did they picture this? They wanted liberation from the yoke or from the protection of the Roman army. What was not considered then was how they themselves could protect themselves through good behavior. There was so much dissension at that time. Only the Roman army was strong enough. And with the fulfillment of the requests or the promises from the light, it was not meant that Christ would come, speak to the people of Judea and Israel alone. Christ himself came for all mankind. Whatever is good which has been presented by the light is meant for all mankind, but they were the first who could, to a large extent, grasp aright what the will of the light was. Therefore, the Son of the Almighty, the inborn Son of the Almighty, had to incarnate amongst them. And having shown examples, he exhorted them to move further, to spread the good news to others. And as can easily be seen, it was the Romans, and albeit the Roman army, many of them who were in the army, the legions, who easily and quickly took up these teachings and lived by them. and they took it out of Judea to other nations. Their faith was great at the beginning until it got to Rome. So you find all the parties that were to play a part in the fulfillment of promises, be it people from Judea, be it the Romans, and even Christ himself and John the Baptist, they were present such that in fulfilling their parts, the living word which Christ brought will be shared with others, such that it will go on to enrich the life of other people. Again, this living word, one must ask, how did many view it? They were contemplating something which is ridiculous, which is difficult to understand. Yet, the words, the expressions were very simple. Love thy neighbor as thyself. And he gave the prayer which they needed to use. And those who were deeply moved took up these examples, lived by it, and went to different places and spread the good news. That was why it was referred to as the good news, because the volition behind the news which they were spreading was good. And those who were to spread the news were not only the people of Judea or Israel, but all those who opened themselves in humility and simplicity to the news. The Romans, particularly the Roman army and others, there were many who were open to this news, and they took up the baton and they spread the news, which later on was turned to Christianity.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for your answers. It's very, very uplifting. I think for many of our listeners who may be paying attention to what we have been talking about, the topic of the discussion, which is the birth of the Son of God, would have found it to be quite useful in channeling and getting connected to the light from the examples that were set by the Son of God, where he brings the good tidings to us mankind. Gregory, I'll take this time now to read and this with a quick note that we normally read, which is for your guidance from the Grail Message. And I read, the bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing NS seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and the prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who openly carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such, it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as a touch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this in the form of ready-made opinions of others only walks his path as if on crutches while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore, awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. So, Gregory, would you like to say something to say goodbye? And oh, by the way, it is currently Christmas, and it would be nice to give our listeners a little bit of some well wishes for this Christmas.
Well, one wishes everyone a very joyous Christmas celebration and a wonderful new year to come.
Thank you once again, listeners, for joining this show. It has been quite an interesting topic that we have covered today, especially it being the Christmas season. We talk about the birth of the Son of God. Listeners, thank you very much. Have a wonderful festive season and have a happy, wonderful, Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Thank you once again, and good night, and God bless.